What is up, everybody? It's Friday night. Hope everybody's doing well. It's probably not Friday night if you're watching this on the replay, but hope you're doing well whenever it is for you. Appreciate your support. Hope you enjoy this stream. We're going to talk about night fishing baits this evening. It is nighttime right now. It's Friday night, a little bit later than would be typical for me to be streaming, but I figured it would be an appropriate time for us to talk about some night fishing baits. Super Mexican, what's up, dude? Remind me what your name is again, dude. Don't know why I don't remember at the moment, but good to see you in here. Simon, what's up? TGIF is right. Good to see you in here. Hope you're doing well, Simon. Cheers, guys. Riley, what is up? Having a pretty good night so far. Just took me a little bit longer to gather my things and hop in here to start streaming. Wanted to hang out with you guys and talk about some night fishing baits tonight. Maybe tomorrow night we'll talk about post-spawn baits specifically. So I've got all my rods and reels down here right now. I'm gonna run you guys through some of my favorite night fishing baits. I'd love to hear your guys' opinions, and I'm also just going to talk to you about a couple of baits that I've either recently picked up or that I've recently kind of created myself. Want to get your opinions on some of those. So, Daniel. Okay, I'll try to remember that. Super Mexican is Daniel. Super Mexican, Daniel. Guys, 4 people in here, 1 thumbs up. Hit me with that thumbs up button real quick, okay? Daniel says, do you think trocar hooks are good? Yes, I do, generally speaking. I know that for whatever reason, because they're so sharp, it's almost like a cutting point compared to a needle point. So, Lance Stevens, appreciate you, man. So, Daniel, yeah, trocar can sometimes do a little bit more damage to the mouth of the fish than, say, owner hooks, for example, or gamakatsu. But generally speaking, trocar are very good hooks, very sharp, and I haven't always had that same experience. So one thing you can do is just pinch down the barb, and that way you get that cutting point, so easy penetration, but then you just got to keep pressure and maybe horse the fish a little bit more so that you're not kind of re-penetrating the mouth, if you will. So generally speaking, though, yes, I like trocar hooks, and I have a bunch of them. So Simon says, make a knot of his name. What? Is it topwater season and frog season? Heck yeah, it is, dude. It is time, officially, for sure. Caught your first fish on the diesel minnow, says Riley. Right on. That's a good swim bait for sure. In fact, I got one rigged up right here. Caught one on last night. This is a little homemade chatterbait, but this is the Z-Man Redfish Eye jig head, which is big. I think this is a 5/0 hook, and this is the 5-inch diesel minnows swim bait. Awesome little night fishing bait here. Caught my first fish of the evening last night on this bait. So a little bit larger profile chatterbait there. Ron Hawley in the building. What's up, dude? Appreciate you watching the videos, playing a little bit of catch up today. Good to see you in here. Glad to see you hanging out. So hope you had a great day. Simon says, make a note of his name. Daniel. I'm not going to make a note. Daniel, I would probably go with owner hooks the majority of the time, but I do jump back and forth. And that's a good thing for us to talk about at another time is which manufacturer I would recommend for which types of hooks, because there is a little bit of variation there. But with some types of hooks, it doesn't really matter which you go to. But sometimes it does when it comes to the keeper, when it comes to the angle of the hook and the style. But again, we can talk about that another time, Daniel. I just generally probably go with owner more often than the other two, but I do use Gamakatsu and Trokar a fair amount. Guggen Juice Jig. I haven't tried any of the Guggen Baits jigs, but from what I've seen, they look to be pretty legit. You know, the Guggen Baits soft plastics are good. The Guggen Squad Ketchco hard baits look sketchy at best to me, and those jigs look surprisingly good. So, want to try those at some point, but I am a little bit picky about my jigs and try not to spend too much money on them. So I might stock up when I finally go out of my way to do a free trial on Carl's Bait and Tackle. So not quite sure when I'm going to do that. But Daniel, you love the hard baits. Interesting. Okay. Well, I'll keep that in mind for the future. William Plunkett, what's up, dude? Good to see you in here. No problem that you haven't made previous streams. Not a big deal. All right, guys, let's get into talking about night fishing baits. This is the topic of tonight's stream after all. So I wanted to talk about night fishing, especially like how I do it. I do a lot of bank fishing, do a lot of pond fishing. So top water is going to be a pretty big theme that you're going to notice in the recommendation of baits here. Going to suggest top water probably 50% or more of the time when thinking about night fishing. You know, during the middle of the day, it's going to be almost flip-flop, but during low light conditions and especially during the night, top water is going to be my first choice for sure. So Daniel says the Grande Recon crankbait is pretty big. All right, fair enough. Haven't checked it out, so I don't really know much about it. Oh, dang, William. My version of night fishing is going out with a bow and shooting some. Woo! Okay, bro. All right, well, let's talk about top water, night fishing. First thing that I think about and first bait that I would tie on, if I could only have one thing, it would be a whopper plopper. Specifically, the 110 size is probably my favorite, but this thing does weigh about an ounce, I think, and so you do need about a medium heavy rod to throw this on. So I also like the 75 size because it has a bulky body. Where's my plopper box? It's across the room, but I do have a 75 sitting right here. Whoops. Just hooked myself. So, as you can see, the 75 actually has a pretty similar depth or even a deeper body. Obviously, it's not as long, 75 versus 110, but this guy holds its own. For weighing about a half an ounce, you can throw this on a lot lighter gear. You can step down to spinning gear or throw it on just a medium power, kind of do everything type of setup. So I would throw that 75 on the same thing that I throw like a lighter buzzbait on. Yeah, Simon, night spinnerbait. Spinnerbait is probably one of the more traditionally common night fishing baits, but not one of my favorite baits to throw day or night. I'm just not a big spinnerbait guy myself, but yes, if you're going to throw a spinnerbait, I would generally throw darker colors and I would go with Colorado blades instead of willow. Just put out a little bit more vibration. But while we're still on the topic of whopper ploppers, a buzzbait is the same exact category. Whopper plopper, buzzbait, or a toad. A lot of times people will rig a soft plastic toad instead of a skirt. They will take the skirt off and just do a buzz toad. Or, of course, you can just take a soft plastic toad, like here's the Keitech. This is the crazy flapper. Sorry, the noisy flapper. And I've got it on a Stanley double take hook. I've got a box full of soft plastic toads. So this will just, buzz kick on the surface. So you got kind of 3 different options for a similar type of action. You're just going to throw these in slightly different conditions, right? There's advantages to each. A buzzbait is a little bit more classic and is going to give that squeaky noise. This here's the Cavitron buzzbait. I like it because they offer it in these lighter weights. This is a 1/4 ounce black buzzbait. So I can really slow roll this bait. Do throw a trailer hook, not a trailer on the back of this. Just black buzzbait. I'll slow roll this on the surface. I've got a light 10-pound braid on here on this just medium power fast action spinning setup. So I will sometimes throw a buzzbait, but the thing is you have to retrieve a buzzbait steadily. You can barely stop and start the thing, but otherwise it's a straight retrieve type of bait. So it is what it is. It can come over some cover, but generally speaking, I would much prefer to throw a whopper plopper because I can stop this thing whenever I want, and it's not going to sink. And because of that, I can fish this thing in a lot of different ways and at a lot of different speeds. And based on how you retrieve it, it's going to put out a lot of different types of noises. So, for example, if you burn this, it's going to make a lot of noise and it's going to have a higher pitch. If you slow roll this thing, it's going to have a more methodical blah, 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 blah. There's kind of a sweet spot that you want to, like a medium fast retrieve, if you're just doing a straight retrieve, is ideal. Otherwise, I like to stop it for about a second and keep it going. I'll do that twice or so in the middle of a retrieve. And every now and again, if the fish are really finicky, I will not do a straight retrieve at all, and I will just kill it, and I'll pull it like a popper or a prop bait, and I'll just do it in pulls. Brr, stop, brr, stop, brr, brr, stop, and you can get some fish to lash out that wouldn't ordinarily with any other bait. So you can work a plopper in a lot of different ways. The buzz toad is a lot more like a buzz bait, but you can throw this thing kind of anywhere you want, which is a rad deal. Just like a frog, you can throw this thing into the nastiest of the nasty, but you do need to throw this on a frog setup. So let's go ahead and talk about a frog next. Other top water baits that I don't throw quite as frequently at night, but of course are going to always do well, are a frog and a walking bait. So let's talk about those for a minute, and let me go ahead and catch up on the comments. Simon, is what to support Colorado? Rage Toad, nose hook on the top. Nose hooked. What? Interesting, dude. What kind of hook are you using to nose hook that? Ron Holly just bought a 75 in the loon. Great purchase there, Ron. You are not going to be sorry, man. Just make sure you're throwing it on light gear. It does weigh a half an ounce, but you want a little bit more parabolic, more of a medium heavy at most. Riley's been catching slabs, huh? You. Bull reds, hardheads, trout. Good for you, Riley. Riley. No, I haven't gotten the package, William, so no worries. We'll get it at some point. All right, guys, so check out this frog. We're going to get a little bit off topic for a moment, but this is going to be a separate YouTube video by itself, but this is a homemade little deal that I put together the other day. What I did was take this is a Booyah pad crasher, okay? Ripped the legs out, and I threw in a Spro power swivel. And the cool thing is, I haven't glued this in, so I'll pull it out and show it to you. Here's what the power swivel looks like. And this thing is big, right? But it's perfectly sized in the middle to where I can shove half of it inside that frog leg hole and just stuff it nice and easy in there. If I throw a little glue on there, this thing is going to stick perfectly. So I've got one on each side. I got a split ring attached to it, and then a CPS spring attached to it. And then I cut off the tails from 2 Ultravibe speed worms and screwed those onto the CPS spring. So I've got a little homemade Sprinker frog with Ultravibe speed worm tails. What do you think about that? Get the heck out of here. Where you guys getting this business? I ain't got no virus, will you? I did cough, though. You're right. Yeah, Texas is being a whole bunch of dummies, you know? My sister lives in Houston, and she was planning on coming out here to Colorado next week, so I'm not quite sure if I support that or not. But yeah, it's gotten quite bad. So check this out. What I also did while those holes were open is I threw a couple glass rattles inside the bait. So really subtle, but when I decide to stop and start this bait, might just make a little extra noise there. So Booyah Pad Crasher turned into a Sprinker frog. What do you guys think about that? Nobody is reacting to that, and that kind of bugs me. Ron says, didn't get a chance to fish it in Idaho. Didn't get a chance to fish, what now? Ron, what did you just get? Oh, that 75 loon. No worries. I'm saying, whenever you get around to fishing it, you are going to like it. You're not going to be sorry about the purchase, was all I was saying. So, yo, I didn't know that Outlaw lives in Colorado, but I don't know that we should do a collab. That's interesting. I will look into it, but If it's the same outlaw that I think you're talking about, I think he's way too big to want to like hang out with me and just talk baits or hang out with my daughters or anything like that. So anyway, let's move on. While we're still on the topic of frogs, I can pull up a couple of extras just in that same category. Here is the Teckle Sprinkler Frog in the black color. I forget what they call this color, but this is what I would throw at night. That blue tail. I also like this guy. This is the Lunkerhunt Prop Frog. Surprisingly, a good frog. Cool design, and decently well made. Good details on it. Soft, collapsible frog. Pretty good hook on there, but more importantly, it's got the trailer hook on there, which is rad. So these feet will turn, and the bait will wake on the surface. But when you get a fish to hit it, and they don't actually wolf the bait and let you set it home, you will get a lot of those fish that you would miss on a frog ordinarily. A trailer hook on a frog is super underrated, and I like this frog for that reason. So again, in the black color, I like that frog. Okay. Let's move on from talking about frogs. We don't need to talk frogs anymore. Let's talk about rats. Let's talk about rats, yo. Russ Dennis, what up, bro? How you doing, man? All right, guys. Next is the rat. Spro Rap 40. This is my choice when it comes to the rat, but there are other sizes and other brands too. Shout out Ron Holly. Ron Holly, 75 Loon. That bait took a beating last year for me. Love it. So, Savage Gear is the other maker of rats. And these are the big size. They make them in like 3 or 4 different sizes. This huge guy weighs like almost 2 ounces. Super loud rattle. They both have 2 hooks on them. At this size, and are gigantic wake baits. They're both super effective, but what makes the Savage Gear different, aside from a little bit of realism with the feet, is that you can put a stinger hook on the back, And there are 2 line ties. There's one up here and one where the split ring is. So you can wake the bait or you can crank the bait depending on what you want to do. So kind of cool there. Savage Gear makes it in a couple different sizes. And Spro makes it in 3 or 4 different sizes. They make a baby 25 size. They make a small 30 size. They make this mid-size 40, and then that big 50 I just showed you. And I don't know where the other ones are in my box or which box they're in at the moment, but I'm not going to dig around more to just show you more rats. But this size 40 is about an ounce. So just like that size 110 Whopper Plopper, you can throw this on the same gear on like a medium heavy, and it's not going to overpower the rig, but you're going to target larger than average fish with it. So the Spro baits come with Gamakatsu treble hooks on them stock, and they are relatively expensive, so you do need to keep your eye out for good sales. BBZ is a series of swim baits and wake baits made by Bill Siementel, who's a California swim bait guru. So anyway, check out rat baits. They are some of my favorite baits to fish at night because this is a bait that you can fish steady and slow, and it puts out a lot of commotion. It makes a knocking sound, like the body itself. The body clacks and it rattles and it wakes, and that's a pretty big profile. And the fish smash it. So there's something about slow and steady baits and bigger baits in general. So while we're at it talking about funky baits, people would not ordinarily think to throw a rat, but there's even crazier baits than that. So sorry I'm not caught up on the comments right now. Russ, Dennis, sorry about it, bro. William says, I'm going to get a Mach 2 and a Black Max before then. Okay. Ron Holly's into the custom stuff. What up? All right. Russ says 13 Fishing just came out with something called the Shadow Spin, and it looks cool as shit. I haven't seen it, the Shadow Spin, but I know that 13 Fishing is stirring some stuff up right now. Their bait that is essentially a copy of the Axis looks interesting, a little bit louder than the Axis, but is essentially a direct copy. And I'll say I went out and threw the 13 Fishing BAMF, BAMF, as in Badass Mofo, shad. I threw this the other day. I threw it a little bit today, and this thing is the real deal. I love it on a medium slow retrieve, especially with this weedless underspin on it. This thing is an awesome gizzard shad imitator. That tail has a nice amount of kick. It is not quite as soft and supple as you would think. This bait is not ideal on a super slow creeping type of retrieve, though who knows, maybe it will be in the dead of summer. But just from looking at it, I really like this on a medium, almost medium fast retrieve. So kind of right in the middle of the water column. It falls at a decent rate, almost a foot per second. So really like this bait. Surprised me quite a bit. Here's a little hot take. This bait, the Beast Coast Creep 6.5, this bait was apparently made to creep on bottom. And this thing has very, very little action. And some people might like that, but for a super slow-moving bait, I find that that this almost looks dead in the water. It just drags, and for what you pay for it, it's the same price as this. You're paying about $6 per soft plastic bait. You know, they come in 2 packs for like $12. So anyway, we don't need to talk about baits that I don't like or recommend right now. But Russ Dennis, I'm going to make a little note to look up the other 13 baits, because I know that 13 is coming out with a whole bunch of new stuff right now, and they're trying to mix it up. And for the last couple of years, they've really branched out and started just, you know, spraying. They're just making this and that and a million different new baits, hard baits, soft baits, and anything and everything in between. So, you know, shotgun method works to a certain extent. There's going to be a few things that are bound to work, but there's also going to be a lot of shit to hit the fan, if you will. So anyway, Ron says, I've never seen a rat that color except when drunk. Yeah, that's true, Ron, but the bass haven't either, and quite frankly, look at the bottom. It's a white bottom. And you can change out these tails. They come in a couple different colors. You can also buy the baits in much more realistic color patterns. There's a gray that is awesome that I've got a couple of the sizes in, the 30 and the 25. But anyway, I'll show you my rat collection another time. Okay, Russ. Really? Looks like a hard, soft swim bait. What? Really? All right, Russ. Now I actually need to write this down. Okay. Let's move on. So we just talked about rats, right? Talked about ploppers. We talked about frogs. Talked about rats. Let's talk about bats. I hadn't considered throwing a bat or a terrestrial style bait, a crawler, if you will, until more recently. And that's because this bait is dirt cheap right now on Monster Fishing Tackle. I will make a point to leave a link. I'm not sure I can do it tonight, but I will do it tomorrow at the very least, so that you guys can go check out this bait. In fact, I have one in my cart right now, and I'm going to make the purchase later this evening. I just can't decide if I want to add another one or not. These things are going for $4 a piece right now on Monster Fishing Tackle, aka OutdoorProShop.com. And what's really cool is this is a crawler style lure, right? So it's got these wings, and it swims like this, okay? Like a wounded or struggling bird or bat in this case. that has landed in the water and is struggling to get out of the water. So look at that. Super cool feather treble. And, it doesn't cast the easiest, but it's surprisingly decent. And it's really loud. I took it out last night for the first time and caught 3 bass on it and was really pretty impressed with it. I like it, quite frankly. So this is the middle size. They make it in 3 sizes. The smallest one is plastic. It's a 3-incher. I would not suggest it just because the wings are going to break down and break off more easily. And then the lure is kind of out of commission at that point. So the middle size, the 4-inch, and the bigger 5-inch, which I've got one here. Both have metal wings. This guy weighs about an ounce. This guy weighs about 2 ounces. Retail, $20, $25. Right now they're $4 a piece on OutdoorProShop.com. Like, I would almost pay $4 for these treble hooks, the feather treble hook on bottom. And I was really impressed by the action of this bait. At first, I was working it too slowly to where I could not really hear the rattle, and I could not hear the chopping of water that this thing creates. So when it's moving slow, it has an action, but much less pronounced. When you start working this thing faster, it really starts cutting the water, and you can hear it clacking, and you can hear that rattle going. So again, at more of a medium to a medium fast retrieve, about the same as what I like the Whopper Flopper at, where it's got kind of its loudest noise without being too much. So medium fast retrieve on that, whereas with the Rat, I really prefer a medium slow or slow retrieve. You will be able to hear that knocking from the Rat. So it's almost the slower the better with the Rat. So while we're on the topic of terrestrial or golly, I'm sorry I'm so not caught up. Ron Holly, is that Rat from the 60s? What's up with that color? Oh boy. Holy crap, William. Someone was about to get shot if they were breaking into your house. Yeah, I don't blame you. Ron, is Ron drunk right now? Riley, I've never tried the spider. I have tried a dragonfly. I've tried a mayfly, but the spider. The reason I didn't try the spider is just that it's got a funky, a tiny little hook on it. You know what I did get recently? Couldn't help myself, and I'm curious to see how this thing works. But this is the Lunker Hunt Yappa Rat. So I don't love that this thing has this soft plastic lip on the front, which tells me it's going to have like a funky jitterbug type of swim to it. What I do like is the single tail, and I wanted to put something that would swim better than just little skirt tail. So yeah. All right. What was I just gonna grab? It's probably better that I don't grab it. Oh, the jitterbug. Everybody knows a jitterbug, right? Jitterbug. Jitterbug. Can't help it. All right, so everybody knows the jitterbug has to be tuned every now and again, just because it's old-fashioned metal screwed into the bait. Sometimes you got to loosen it and kind of straighten this guy out so that it will swim straight. It looks like this one is going to want to swim a little bit to the left right now, but in general, here's the idea: is that this guy, has its own erratic, wide wobbling surface swimming action. The jitterbug was made by Arbogast, and it's just one of the OG topwater lures. So there are newer baits on the market, like this Yappa bug, and a lot of crawler style lures that have that same type of action now, just a lot more realistic, a lot more interesting profiles for sure. Yeah, Ron. You bought the Smuggler. Chase Baits makes a Smuggler, which is a bird, and Savage Gear makes a duck. But I think that thing actually has a dual prop legs, kind of like that frog that I showed you from Lunker Hunt. So this is more of a crawler, as is that Chase Baits Smuggler that you just mentioned, Ron. So yeah. You approve of the bat, huh? Interesting. So guys, if you give me the thumbs up, I will add another bat to my cart, and I will put it in next month's giveaway for July, which will be focused on summer topwater baits, including night baits. You tell me, would you prefer, let's just say you won the giveaway. I don't have a preference, but do you have a preference between the 4-inch bat and the 5-inch bat? I mean, these are both pretty big baits, right? I mean, I'm telling you, this thing is half the size of my hand, and this thing is about as big as my hand. Like I said, 1 ounce, 2 ounces. These things are not going to cast very easily, but they're going to have a ton of drawing power. Which of these would you rather have? Not due to color, but due to size. Which are you more likely to throw, and which would you prefer to have? The 4-inch or the 5-inch? Medium or large? Give me your votes in the comments right now. Or do you not want a bat? Should I not include a bat in next month's giveaway? I mean, like I said, look at that freaking treble hook. All right, so we talked about wake baits a little bit, like only the rat, but you can get similar bites from wake baits that are more traditional, let's say. These two are newer baits, but they're both bait fish profiles. This is the 6 Sense Speed Wake, and this bait is killer because you can burn it this thing will go really, really fast or as slow as you want it, and it will have a true swimming action. And listen to that. For a 6 cents bait, that rattle is about as loud as it gets. So the 6 cents speed wake is a cool one. The Strike King KVD 2.5 wake is a little bit more of a traditional wake bait crankbait. This is a 2.5 size, so it's a little bit on the larger size, but listen to the sound of it. This guy, you can swim very slowly and wake it on the surface, and it will make a loud sound. So, really like this. Came out last year at ICAST. There are now a good handful of baits on the market in this wake bait category. 6 cents makes one. Yo-Zuri makes one, and I've got all of those in addition to this 6 cents, the speed wake. So William Plunkett says no bat in the giveaway. Okay, dude. Ron wants the 4-inch. The 4-inch is the one that that I've got here that I caught 3 fish on last night, and actually really liked. So I don't know why you wouldn't want it, William. It's kind of weird, man. Now, what walking baits we can talk about just for a second. Walking baits and poppers are, oh gosh, here's all these baits that I was looking for. Hey, Ron, how's that? This is a tiny mouse. Compare this to the Rat 40, and all of a sudden, this rat is looking a little bit big, huh? This is the 25 size Spro. It might even be called a mouse, but that's a lot more realistic looking. And then you step up to the 30 size. I said this wasn't going to be a showcase of my my wake bait or my rat collection, but I guess it is turning into that. Hey, Ron, here's another realistic rat color for you. Brown with a light tan tail. This is the 30 size. So you go from 25 baby, 30 little guy, 40 big guy, and then the 50 is giant. I already showed that to you. It's in a different box. I'm telling you, the 40 is the deal. The 30 works great too, but it's more for spinning equipment. I would throw it on that same setup that I just showed you that I've got that 1/4 ounce buzzbait on. So anyway, the BBZ Rat 30 and Rat 40 are great options. Let's skip walking baits and let's skip poppers. There is one popper that I want to show you guys. Get your attention real quick and get your opinions on. Riley says, did you get back in touch with Jack? I did not. And I'm looking right at the baits that you sent me. They're still sitting in that package. I should figure out what to do with them. You and I should have a little conversation about that. And I should get in touch with Jack, because maybe he and I should have the conversation about it, since those were intended for him in the first place. James Barron, what's up, dude? I've had my hooks straightened on the Savage bat. They need upgraded hooks. Interesting. Dude, that's what gear are you throwing? I would not say that these hooks are needing to be upgraded, bro. On the 4-inch or the 5-inch, and maybe that's just me. I don't know. Yeah, I also like the hooks that Spro uses. I mean, that's one reason that Spro is awesome, is just that they care about details, and they've partnered with Gamakatsu, and all of their baits use Gamakatsu hooks. I think that's super cool. So, they're not cutting corners there. You pay just a little bit more for the baits, but knowing that you don't have to change out the hardware, that's crucial, right? William says, I would fish the crap out of that 30 rat. Yeah, I hear you, dude. Okay, James, you're talking about the smaller bat, 30 or the 3-inch? I actually don't have any of that. Or are you talking about this 4-inch? See, I didn't buy the small bat simply because it seemed to be a little bit cheaper made. The components and everything. As I was talking about, the wings on the little guy are plastic. This middle size and the bigger one are metal, and the hooks are bigger and more substantial. So maybe that's what it is, dude. All right, guys, here it is. This is what I want your opinion on. Have y'all heard of the topwater popper called the Jackal Binksy? Yes or no? It is a unique Japanese style, JDM we'll call it, Japanese domestic market popper. And it has a spinner blade and a prop spinner on the back, and 2 treble hooks on it. It is a wild looking popper, and there's kind of nothing like it on the market. Have you guys ever heard of it? Okay, Ron. Why are you so critical of the paint jobs, bro? I'm telling you, the bass like this purple color, Ron. They like it. Okay, guys. Here is the homemade soft plastic line through Binksy. All right, check this out. This is the 5-inch Z-Man Pop Shads. Okay? Soft plastic popper. And this thing kills, right? It floats super well like you would expect from a Lastec, and it pops really well. Soft plastic poppers are just not a thing for whatever reason, mostly because the typical soft plastic material does not float. And so Z-Man has a good thing going with the pop shads. They make a 4-inch and a 5-inch. What you can do is rig this thing line through by rigging it on a normal hook. You tie your line to a hook, thread it like you would a Texas rig or whatever, pull it through, cut that line off, tie your treble hook on, and voila, you've got a line through here. So when a fish bites, the bait goes up the line. Okay? So that's a cool deal, first of all. So just single treble hook on here. If you're throwing around some nasty cover, of course you could put an EWG style hook on here, but your hookup ratio is going to go down a little bit. And because of these spinner blades here, I'm going with the treble hook in general. So what I'll do is tuck this treble hook up in here so that it lays kind of in the slot here. This is a size 2 Mustad EWG triple grip. And ordinarily, I'd go with a round bend, not a triple grip or an EWG style treble hook. But just for purposes of trying out this rig and for having a red hook, I decided to give this a shot. So now to the meat and potatoes of the rig. Check this out. You go to the very end. I chopped the tail off and I screwed in this wicked spinner blade, tail spinner, which is made by Zappu, a Japanese terminal tackle brand, and it is called the Para R. It has a screw lock keeper on it, so you have to either heat that up or you have to pinch the Elastec material to screw it in there. A little bit tricky to get a screw lock into Elastec, but you can do it. So there you've got the end, and here you've got the TRD spins, these new spinner blades made for the Neko rig, for stick baits, for swim baits, for kind of anything you want to use them for. And voila, you have the exact same placement, same style action as you would get on a Binksy on this soft plastic popper. So only thing missing is a treble hook placed about right here on the ordinary Binksy. Otherwise, this is a homemade Binksy. What do you guys think about that? Yeah, the Morning Dawn Rat is Bill Siementel's favorite, and it might be my favorite too. Okay, we're gonna move on. And quite honestly, we're halfway or more through the list, and we're just gonna move on from topwater and go subsurface. So my favorite bait to throw, subsurface, moving bait, cover water, as you would expect, is a chatterbait. Specifically, a 3/8 ounce jackhammer chatterbait in the black and blue. Awesome night fishing bait right here. Tons of thump. That is the reason that I like a chatterbait, specifically a jackhammer, is that it is the most obnoxious, the loudest, the hardest thumping chatterbait out there. Of course, you could throw a swim jig, but you're not going to get nearly as much drawing power. The bass are going to notice a chatterbait coming from a lot further away. They're going to be irritated by it that much more. The chatterbait is a good bait to throw at night, especially in a darker profile, something that's going to stand out. So the only thing that I don't love about a chatterbait at night is the fact that it is a relatively fast-moving bait. It's very rare that at nighttime I'm going to slow hop this off the bottom or work it like I would a rattle trap. I'm usually going to straight retrieve and speed this up and slow it down and speed it up like I normally work a chatterbait. But chatterbait is one of my go-to moving baits at night, even though it's a little bit fast. James caught an 8.5 last week on a Stanley Ribbit. Right on, dude. That is wicked. I like the Ribbit top-toed. I like the standard Ribbits. I like Stanley soft plastic frogs for sure. Good for you, man. 8.5. It's a hell of a fish. Congratulations, man. Okay. Let's talk crankbaits. Okay. Of course, you could throw, just a standard square bill will work. You want those odd colors at night. So here is a bait that I haven't tied on yet, at least this color, but this is the 6th Sense Axis in that black magic color. So a black and blue crankbait, especially a crankbait with a very wide action or erratic hunting action like this Axis has, is going to be a sweet night bait. Okay, this guy's going to dive a few feet deeper than that speed wake will, or than a normal wake bait would. This is going to be like a standard square bill crankbait, but with a little bit more action and a little bit more noise. So something like the Axis or a louder, wider wobbling, dark colored crankbait would be a good option. Okay. Riley says, all right, I'm out. Going to be at work really soon. Hours are crazy right now. Hope y'all have a good rest of your night. Tyler, hope the kids and the wife are good. Another good vid, Ty Lines. All right. Yeah, 5 minutes. We're not going to be on that much longer, Riley. Don't worry about it. Tonight's going to be a shorter one. We don't have that many people in here, and I'm going to be back on tomorrow night. So why don't you guys just be prepared for same time tomorrow night, a little bit earlier, more like 8:30 my time, and we'll talk Postmon in general. So yeah, I know, James. I talked about it. That the Jabberjaw is a straight up direct copy of the Axis. It's kind of a weird thing. It's a little bit louder than the Axis, but yeah, pretty obnoxious copy. William, you're not going to mow some yards. Get the heck out of here, dude. But have a great rest of your night, man. Who's mowing yards in the middle of the night? What are you doing? All right, guys. Last couple baits that I want to talk about. So moving baits along the same lines as a chatterbait. We talked about the spinner bait already, right? We kind of talked about swim baits. Something like a Diesel Minnows swim bait, 4-inch, 5-inch. Those are great options. Like a mid-sized swim bait. Something that you can work in the middle of the column. These guys are all a little bit too natural. Wouldn't ordinarily throw those. Here's a good one. This is like somewhere between a swim jig, a spinner bait, a swim bait. This is a striking tour grade swim jig rigged with a dart spin. This is a Band of Anglers dart spin in the 3.5-inch as a trailer. That could be a sweet little moving bait. You get some flash there. You get a little bit of secondary action from the skirt. And then a lot of people like to throw big jigs or Texas rigs as night baits. How about that guy? This is a monster jig with a, I had to trim this trailer down, but this is the 5-inch Papa Pit Boss as a trailer on this gigantic football jig from Z-Man. But something like this big old 1 ounce, ounce and a half jig at nighttime can be a killer. How about the Tokyo rig? Okay, this is going to be one of the last things that I really want to talk about. Is that if you're not getting bit on top water, if you're not getting bit moving in the middle of the water column, sometimes it's appropriate to go to high percentage areas and throw a little bit of finesse. So the Tokyo rig is a good in-betweener because you kind of get Texas rig mixed with a drop shot. So in addition to the Tokyo rig, I would suggest a drop shot if you want to move a little bit slower at night. This right here is the 3-inch Pit Boss on just a light. This is either a quarter or a 3/8 ounce on a 3/0 EWG Tokyo rig. You could throw that, or you could throw a drop shot and work a bait slow like that. So those are pretty much my recommendations for night baits. I'm going to stay on top most of the time. I'm throwing a whopper plopper usually, but sometimes I'll throw a buzz bait or a buzz toad, just like a soft plastic toad. Sometimes I'll throw a frog or a prop frog. Every now and again, I'll throw a walking bait, but not usually. I really do like to throw the bat and the rat, like I talked about. Those are killer that you can work just a little bit slower. So, that trio of the whopper plopper, the rat, and the bat give you very obnoxious, slow, methodical baits that I think are most effective at night and in low light situations. So those are all kind of my go-to. And then of course you can go under the surface, and I really like a chatterbait. You can get away with a swim bait, crankbait, jigs, Tokyo rig, drop shot. There's a lot of stuff that you can do. No worries, Brandon, we're actually signing off here right now, just wrapping up. We've been talking about night fishing for the last hour, and my battery's running low, my beer's running low, my energy's running low, so I'm going to hop out of here. Tomorrow night we're going to talk about post-spawn baits in general. Post-spawn is a little bit broad of a category, but what I mean is once bass are done spawning, they might still be guarding fry, but before they've moved all the way out to their summer deep spots, and some fish do stay up shallow, but we're going to talk about post-spawn behavior and baits that I prefer to throw. So anyway, if you want to rewatch, tonight's video is a pretty decent one about baits that work really well at night. So I didn't talk about how to work them all necessarily, but those are some of my favorite baits. Generally speaking, I would go with dark and bold colors. I would go with big and slow moving baits. I would go with louder baits that are going to put out more commotion, are going to get the attention of bass from further away, and then give them more of a target to key in on and effectively smash. You will find that if you work a whopper plopper too fast, if you work a chatterbait too fast, you will start to get hits and not hook up. The fish can't see very well at night unless you're fishing a full moon and your Will Perriman, but otherwise, slower is better. So anyway, Brandon says I've been doing a lot of night fishing lately, like 4 a.m. to 9 a.m. Got my PB 7 pounds at 4 a.m. Good for you, man. All right, guys, I'm gonna peace out of here. My computer just let me know that my battery's running low. So If you haven't already hit the thumbs up, do that for me. 10 people in here right now. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Always fun. Let me know if you have any suggestions of what you'd like to talk about in the future. But tomorrow night, we're going to talk about post-spawn baits. Hope you have a great day tomorrow. I'm going to be hanging out with my daughters. Hopefully, it's going to be nice weather. I will see you guys tomorrow night. Cheers.